Yes, thank you, Obama. Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We start the day with triumph and tragedy. Triumph remembering the great life of, well, a war hero, a hero in the Senate, John McCain. Whether or not we agreed with John all the time, Senator McCain truly was a maverick. And how many of us remember going down with him figuratively, maybe even literally, when he was running for president in 2008. I can remember doing election night coverage and all of a sudden going, well, if McCain does this, if McCain does that. And unfortunately, McCain and Palin didn't do a lot. And Barack Obama came in not once, but twice. And there we have it. Over the weekend, of course, the Sunday shows, it's the end of President Trump. And, all these lawsuits going on. I know they were salivating. I know they were going on and on and on. And they wanted to just have an entire Sunday show with President Trump getting run out of office. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because of the death of Senator McCain. Then you have the situation with the shooting in Jacksonville. We haven't heard yet on whether or not we're going to have a ban of video games, of banning Madden football or what have you. But apparently that seems to be the case. And, of course, people will use this terrible, terrible tragedy to do what? To go with a ban for weapons. Really? Isn't that what this is about? Again, we will take your calls about the issues that matter to you. I know a few of you are calling in right now. We'll get to you in a minute. But, where do we begin? Obviously, I think remembering Senator McCain. And there were a couple people on the Sunday shows that didn't appear. You had Lindsey Graham, who was McCain's partner, Joe Lieberman as well. Not partner in the modern sense, but partners as far as political policy, partners as far as anything else. They were with McCain through all of the skirmishes. In fact, Lieberman almost became the vice presidential pick of Senator McCain in 2008, right? And that didn't happen. You had Sarah Palin, and we didn't hear Sarah Palin yesterday as well. I would have loved to have heard what Lindsey Graham had said, along with Sarah Palin as well. So John McCain seems to be what you want to talk about. We'll go to Pro-Life. Pro-Life, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning.
Yeah, John McCain was one of these kind of guys that never wanted to take a position on anything. And, you think back about his life, and what did he really stand for? Except,
well, wait a minute. He did take his position. He shot down the GOP's efforts to reform Obamacare.
Yeah.
He was the guy that backed the immigration reform that failed in 05-06.
Right.
Because the Republican grassroots decided to rise up and smash that and smash him and smash President Bush. I mean, John McCain was pretty much a maverick, pretty much an independent. He didn't go and look, he was not a fan of the conservative base, and neither were they of him.
Exactly. And, so now Chuck Schumer is proposing that they're going to rename a building, one of the congressional buildings, the John McCain Compromised Congressional Building. And I don't know. I think back about him, and he never.
Yeah, what is it? The Russell Building or the other building? And I'm thinking, well, what about Russell? Maybe they should think about that before they jump into renaming it after John McCain.
Yeah, and the Republicans are just about as bushy-headed. They'll say, okay, let's go for John McCain because he's a Republican. Let's rename the Russell Building. That's about what will happen. But John McCain, he never said abortion was murder, socialism, collective theft. He never said don't smoke or drink, have a family, follow Jesus Christ. He never said anything that amounted to anything. So, hey, I guess that's how you get somewhere in this world, by not taking a stand on anything.
Well, I think he did take a stand.
Yeah, well, we were mushy stands.
Right. It was a stand that most of us disagreed with.
Right. Yeah. Well, anyway.
You remember the Keating Five. He was caught up in that.
Yeah,
and, of course, you remember McCain-Feingold, the campaign finance reformed.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah, now when you say all those things. Yeah, he's That would be an apt building, but they'd have to put compromise in there. The John McCain Big Compromiser building.
Well, he seemed to be more friendly with the Democrats than he was with the Republicans.
Yeah, and his two buddies, Lindsey Graham and
Joe
Jeff
Lieberman.
Jeff Flake.
No, Joe Lieberman.
And Joe Lieberman. They're not remembered for really standing up for what's true. So anyway, we'll just check out here, and maybe somebody else will have a comment about it.
You're up very early, so John McCain, no hero to you.
No, he wasn't. And I just really wish that we had politicians. But then you see, here comes somebody that really stands for something, Trump, and so the people vote for him and elect him, and they're enthusiastic about him. And I remember John McCain, he said, my opponent, Barack Obama, is a nice young man, a family man. We just have disagreements about politics.
Well, you remember when the lady called him a Muslim and said he hated America, and then McCain went off on her.
Yeah, I know. Well, anyway, we have a weird world, but it'll all get straightened out in the next one.
God bless pro-life. Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you.
All right, we'll see you. Remembering Senator McCain, your thoughts at 580-5436. 580-KIDO with Kevin Miller in the morning.
Patriotism sometimes runs in a family, and sometimes the second or third generation takes it for granted, but that certainly wasn't the case with John. And I think, when he's remembered this coming week and the week after and the months after, it's going to be as a patriot. With all his strengths and weaknesses, all his accomplishments, it was really just the fact that America came first with him at all times.
Particularly in the last several years, he was the conscience of the Senate. He really was. And so I don't think you can overstate the importance or impact of his impact on the body.
He will be missed for many, many reasons, Chuck, but I think that example that he set of working across the aisle, but more than that, working to bring people together here at home and around the world is one we should remember.
The Senate, the country, the world are lesser places tonight with the loss of John McCain.
So we'll take your thoughts on Senator McCain and his accomplishments. Obviously, you may disagree with him, which I certainly have, on many issues. But on the other hand, you take a look at Senator McCain at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And when he went through in Vietnam, how many of us read the book when we were young or not so young, The Hanoi Hilton? How many of us, if we were given that opportunity to go home, would stay to be with our men, to be with our team, and would not leave until everyone left, and to be tortured in such indescribable ways that we can't even share those views with people here on the people's airwaves. So that is one issue. Senator John McCain, your thoughts on him. We also have people gunning for the president. Oh, aren't they always gunning for the president? We'll get back to that. But there was a tragedy over the weekend that many people are covering, and it's a tough one for the mainstream press because you have remembering John McCain. And I always remember when McCain was running for office that the press loved him. And that was going to be his big advantage, that the press would give him cover. Except they found someone else more appealing, and that was Barack Obama. And they turned on him like they turn on everyone.
The suspect and killer, the only person police and sheriff's deputies say is responsible here, 24-year-old David Katz out of Baltimore. ATF and FBI searched his townhouse yesterday, and they closed down that scene last night. And according to witnesses, it was absolutely terrifying, chaotic, and it was a pure panic. The victims, 2 dead, 9 wounded by the gunfire. The 2 dead, Taylor Robertson out of Ballard, West Virginia, and Eli Clayton out of Woodland Hills, California. This is a pretty big tournament, very popular amongst the gaming community, all of the people that play Madden online with their competitors around the country. Some of them were actually meeting for the very first time here at this tournament.
There we have it. There we have it at 580-5436. 580-KIDO. This tournament happens. What are we going to ban the Madden video games? Are we going to ban the idea of having these tournaments? Well, of course not. But it comes down to this. How safe, how secure do we feel when it comes to going somewhere? Now, all of a sudden, video game tournaments aren't safe. Do we need armed guards there? Don't know if that's the case. However, it does come down to personal responsibility. And where you're out and about, do you feel it necessary to conceal and carry? Now, a lot of you are going to say, well, Kevin, I'm not going to tell people whether or not I conceal and carry. That is the only way, I believe, that you can, in fact, keep yourself safe. And look, whether it's mental illness, whether it's somebody just had a bad day. Apparently, this kid was on one of the live streams actually putting, the laser dots on people before he opened up, tragically killing people. He was killed as well. Now, do we start putting people in institutions? Which is concerning to me, because have you been to your local doctor lately? I was amazed the last time I went to my medical provider. I guess that's the politically correct way to say this, the medical provider. All of a sudden I had this big list of things that I had to fill out. And I'm like, I've been here before. Why do I have to fill this out? You know, the medical industry, the pharmacy industry, very lucrative, very big, because it keeps people alive. You can't just quit being on medical, although some people do. So I'm in there, and they're asking me if I'm depressed, if I'm this, I'm that, all these questions. And I believe some doctors ask people if they have weapons. I don't think that's any of their business, unless we're going to start putting people back into mentally challenged homes. But that's an invasion of privacy. So even with all of the invasion of privacies for the good people, all the laws that the good people have to follow, we still have this tragedy in Jacksonville, Florida. I mean, when are we ever going to get serious about stopping the bad people before they strike, if that's even possible? 580-5436. It's Minority Report Monday. Kevin Miller with you on KIDO Talk Radio.
It's Dave Ramsey. Listen to me today, live at noon. And now back to my friend Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Now on 107.5 FM. That's 107.5 FM.
Thank you for waking up on the right side. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. By the way, we are back for our, 10th season of schools. Actually, our 10th year of schools, something like that. Well, it couldn't be 10th year of schools, but what is it? Probably our 17th season of schools. Thanks to CapEd Credit Union, Team Mazda Subaru. If you have a school that you would like us to profile, send me an email, and I will send it on to Ray Amaya. My email, kevin@KIDOTalkRadio.com. Our first school will be Compass Public Charter School. They'll be kicking it off September 14th, and then we'll be at Mountain View on the 28th. Promote our school, secure our future, brought to you by CapEd Credit Union and Team Mazda Subaru. If you're just waking up, talking about the big two national stories going on. Number one, remembering John McCain, even though most conservatives, myself included, disagreed with him. He was a maverick. He was this. He was that. Your thoughts on the nation remembering, if nothing else, and this is huge, a war hero, a veteran, Senator John McCain. That is number one. Number two, when it comes to safety, how secure should we be, can we be? This gets to be a question that we ask, unfortunately, again and again and again and again when it comes to safety. A shooting in Jacksonville, Florida, where you had some kid, apparently we don't know why, it doesn't know why, well, how do you define it, opened up and killed people, and then he was killed as well. And like I said, you're going to have other people talking about gun laws and this, that, and the other. And I was sharing with you my personal experience and the personal experience of someone very close to me, that when you go to your doctor's office now, all of a sudden you have to fill out, and again, let me apologize in advance, the crazy form. Kevin, what do you mean the crazy form? Well, the crazy form, where they say, are you depressed? Are you this? Are you that? Are you under therapy? And it's funny, people that always are talking about therapy, they say, well, you should go to therapy, Kevin Miller. And I say, my therapy is with you each and every day. But most of us were taught that therapy was weakness. You don't reveal that because you could be disqualified for national office. You could be disqualified for getting a job because you're under therapy. Now, today, therapy is mainstream. So I was shocked when I went into my doctor's place and they said, are you a kook? Well, no. And again, I don't mean to trivialize mental illness, but they said, are you depressed? Are you this, that, and the other? Very invasive questions. And then you have some people asking people if they own handguns and such. Now, if you answer all these questions correctly, what's that supposed to do? They put it into the precog computer. You remember that movie with Tom Cruise, Minority Report, where they could predict whether or not you're going to do a crime. And they're going to, take away your right to bear arms, your right to do this, your right to do that. And yes, the intent might be there as well-meaning, but that's not going to stop people from doing bad things, like in Jacksonville, Florida. What's next? Vilifying steak knives? So those are the two topics that we've been discussing. Our friend Betsy Russell reviving her Eye on Boise piece that was well-renowned in Spokane, now at the Idaho Press-Tribune, going back and forth about the governor's race. And look, we're the only ones in the state that have declared it over. Brad Little wins. And they're talking about 2 polls by the Libs. The Libs are trying to keep their candidate relevant. Look, it's not going to happen. You know that, and I know that. That's not overconfidence. That's fact. I'll tell you why in a minute. KIDO Talk Radio time, 6:25. Traffic and weather together.
Rick Everett.
All right, Larry, thank you very much. Good to have you back, and Doug and Bob in for Dave, and Ray and I, Kevin Miller, serving you each and every morning. So back to this case about the governor's race. Again, God bless Betsy Russell, the political reporter for the Press Tribune, or the Press, Idaho Press. She's, talking about these 2 polls that have Little up by 10% and one by 8%. 2 Idaho polls, one conducted in July, one conducted in August. Sample size 1,000 people. The first one, 826 in the second. The margin of error, blah, blah, blah. First poll, Little 38%. Jordan 28%. 7% unfavored. Third-party candidate, 26% unsure. Second one, 36% for Little. Jordan, 28%. And they quote someone from Dr. Jeffrey Lyons from the Idaho Policy Institute at Boise State examining the race. Look, and I love political scientists. They're great because they read a lot of things. But on this program, everybody's a political scientist. And basically he's saying the bulk of the campaigning is yet to come. The bulk of the money is yet to be spent. Sizable number of voters still don't know a ton about the candidate. Yeah, look, they know Brad Little. And, people, and back to what Dr. Lyons is saying, really echoing what we've talked about, what you've talked about here. Brad Little winning with 37.3% of the vote. You've got people saying some Labrador and maybe some Alquist voters are upset about how Brad Little's campaign treated them. I don't think so. I don't think that is where it's going to happen. The bottom line here is that you're going to have the realtors, you're going to have IACI or IKEA. I guess it's IACI, not IKEA. The business folks, you're going to have the Little campaign. You're going to have probably the Republican Governors Association, all kicking in money in a state where the Republicans are 4 to 5 to 1. Now, Paulette Jordan can have Cher. She can have, let's see, who else is it? She can have that lady from Sex and the City, Cynthia Nixon, who apparently the Democrats, the LGBTQ, and she's LGBTQ, they're actually endorsing Cuomo over her. Cynthia Nixon perhaps could come in and fundraise for her, and we can have CNN and everybody talk about how wonderful it is, but the numbers don't lie. The passion deficit doesn't lie. And look, I would love a competitive race because it's drama and everything else, but the bottom line here is that this race is done. It is over and done with. Maybe Medicaid expansion across the country, polling pretty well in Idaho. And remember, Paulette Jordan is a state rep from the North, but she lives in the North End. As soon as somebody sends out a release, because really journalism is press release journalism here, I follow the practice, and says, where does she live? Already you have people questioning her on the gun issue. So I'm confused. On one hand, she was representative of the North Country. That's her home territory. And yet she has an apartment in the North End. And yet no one's talking to her, at least publicly, about getting a homeowner's exemption. Maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. Like they are with Representative Giddings. Why is there a double standard there when it comes to conservatives versus the libs? I don't get it. But I go back to this. So 3 topics here. Hello, time to wake up, everybody. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Remembering Senator McCain, was he a hero to you? What to do about safety when it comes to these gaming things. And finally, a topic that we will so much enjoy talking about now until November, the governor's race. One poll has Brad Little up by 10, another has him up by 8. By the way, if you see his social media, Brad Little has not stopped running, which is more than we could say for just about anybody else, particularly Paulette Jordan. She opened her campaign office. Have you seen her around? You do see Brad Little around, don't you? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Let's find out what's happening in your world. Boy, it's a little Monday, a little wake up for me. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin.
Rolling out to Capitol Hill, Rachel Sutherland, Fox News Radio. Rachel, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin.
Remembering John McCain, we were just talking about him Friday.
Yeah, and the news broke late Saturday, and, I did some work late Saturday night just remembering his life and announcing what was going on with the stations. And so, there's just been an absolute outpouring of response. It wasn't that big of a surprise to me that he had so many people that admired him after his time being a POW in Vietnam and, his decades of service at the Capitol. He had this ongoing feud with President Trump, but there was a tweet that the president sent out, saying deepest sympathies go to the family. There was this just confirmed by Fox News, there was a statement that was to go out, possibly praising John McCain as a war hero, but the president decided against that. They just never really got along. I think it all started, when he was a candidate, the president referring to McCain's captivity in Vietnam, saying, I like people who are not captured. That's the famous line there. And then McCain himself, gave the famous thumbs down on the repeal of Obamacare. And McCain didn't want President Trump at his funeral. So even in, death, I think McCain, he was going to do it his way. And he stuck to his guns all the way there to the end.
Well, McCain was known for holding a grudge.
Well, I think both men were similar. Because there's just they were at loggerheads. But I think now people are really reflecting on the life of Senator McCain and from both sides of the aisle. I mean, you saw McCain was one of those rare Republican senators who really would reach across the aisle to the other side. And that didn't always make Republicans happy. So he wasn't one that worried about pleasing people, though. As
my friend Rachel Sutherland would know from her years in South Carolina, obviously that contentious primary in 2000. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, McCain was not the bellwether ball of conservatives, even though he had a great relationship with Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. But those guys usually disagreed with their party on a lot of key issues. And historically, I think John McCain will be known for his independence, as you've said. Absolutely. He'll be known for that. And, yeah, and he came through town. I remember back in 2000 I was working there, and he came, I think it was Cindy McCain that came to our radio station, and then I was able to meet him as he was, shaking hands out there. And that year, of course, he didn't get the nomination. In 2008 he did. With Sarah Palin on the ticket, she also issued her own statement saying that, she'll remember the good memories that she had with McCain, called him her friend. So, but right, I mean, he was definitely his own person, and because of that, he didn't have all that many friends, I guess, when it came to some in the Republican Party. But at the same time, I don't see anyone saying anything particularly negative about him. There's a few weird things on Twitter, but that always happens. Right, and you go back to, I was surprised I didn't see Lindsey Graham or Sarah Palin or Joe Lieberman on the Sunday shows yesterday. And those people, particularly Graham, were very close to McCain.
It could be that we'll hear more from Lindsey Graham on the days going forward. Congress has been out of session, so that's perhaps, I don't know if that's why they weren't on the Sunday shows, especially the case with Lindsey Graham. I mean, who knows? But they should be back sometime today in the Senate, and as tradition holds, they will cover Senator McCain's desk with a black cloth and place flowers there. And we know that his funeral will be held in Washington. Well, there will be several services, both in Arizona and in Washington. So it'll be kind of a week long of remembering this really remarkable life.
Sure, and you have two people eulogizing him in Washington, President Bush, former President Bush, and former President Obama. Really, it's fascinating because he and President Bush had a contentious relationship during that primary and even during the Bush presidency, but they always had a working relationship.
They did. They got along later. I think that it was one of those cases where, McCain wasn't going to have any. There was one moment in the debate, I'm sure it's been played over and over again, or a town hall in which, when he was, running against Obama, someone was saying something negative about President Obama, and he said, "No, stop. He is a good man." He wouldn't allow the criticism, and in some respects, that kind of stance could have cost him that election. It was very interesting in 2008 to see. And I know he always wanted to be president. That didn't happen, but I think many will remember him as a great statesman, regardless of the fact that he never attained the presidency.
Rachel Sutherland, we could go on and on, but I'm sure you have. You're always working. We don't want to take you away from your day job.
All right, thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Rachel. Rachel Sutherland joining us. Remember, when you hear Fox News on the radio, you're listening to KIDO Talk Radio. I do want to remind you that coming up next week, a very special week for us. We, along with several other folks, have been nationally recognized to attend a big conference in Washington, D.C., holding their feet to the fire. This is our fourth year, I think, being invited. I think it's their 9th or 10th total overall, and you have to, again, you're honored for your work in conservative politics. You're honored for your work in community, so we will be there. And once again, we will be taking your phone calls and talking to our lawmakers, and we will be talking to Senator Risch. We'll be talking to Senator Crapo. We'll also be talking to Congressman Labrador, and he'll be making his appearance on our program next week. We look forward to that, again, going to Washington, D.C., and hearing from our lawmakers and taking it to them. And we look forward to that, and we do that every year. We want to thank our friends at FAIR for making that happen and recognizing the good work of the people here in the Treasure Valley and understanding that this area is so important to our national conversation. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Getting back to this situation that happened, and I'm sure Sean Hannity will be going over this extensively this afternoon beginning at 3, this tournament in Jacksonville, Florida. Now, again, let me warn you, you're going to be hearing people playing this Madden football game, the Falcons versus somebody, and you're going to have gunshots in the background. And really it comes down to this. When you hear this, what goes on in your mind when it comes to safety and the idea of having armed guards now at even video game tournaments? It goes to show you that people that have agendas that are bad people can strike anywhere.
A lot of good games going on.
It's a lot. It's going to be hard to get them on stream.
It's not
a lot.
It's not a tough out today. Excuse me, not an easy out.
And there you have it. Here you have these kids playing a game, being very innocent, minding their own business, and then this killer strikes. Now you have people on the ground in Jacksonville trying to make sense of things. Sometimes you just can't make sense of bad people doing bad things. It's so easy for us to talk about, but again, through the talk, there has to be a solution. Now again, here you have Marquise Williams making comments on a 24-year-old by the name of David Katz of Baltimore, the suspected shooter.
So the politicians wake up, because the people are dying on the streets and you guys are going through the same motions over and over and over again. Does it take for someone close to you to lose their lives to gun violence for you to wake up and realize to do something?
Well, what would you like us to do? Ban guns? Don't they ban guns in Chicago? With all due respect to Mr. William, don't they ban guns in the District of Columbia? Don't they ban guns in New Orleans? Don't they ban guns in some of the most dangerous places in the United States of America? And the politicians need to wake up? Maybe it's time for the media to wake up. Maybe it's time for all of us to wake up. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Now, again, there was nothing wrong with this kid. Had no issues that we know of at this time. He just brought a gun in. Maybe there should be metal detectors at this place. I don't know.
So the politicians wake up, because the people are dying on the streets and you guys are going through the same motions over and over and over again. Does it take for someone close to you to lose their lives to gun violence for you to wake up and realize to do something?
We go to Joe in Meridian with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Joe.
Morning, Kevin. How you doing?
Not bad for a Monday. And you, sir? Joe?
Great. I'm doing great, Kevin. Sorry about that. I was just listening to your comments on gun violence and some of these events that happen, and I agree with you. You know, you can't always understand when people just turn to evil. We had the stabbing here that happened in town a while back. We had this thing in Jacksonville. You know, at the end of the day, you can try to get inside that person's head all you want, but the fact of the matter is they committed a heinous act, an evil act that needs to be punished first. And once you punish them, and once you set the message that, hey, we're not going to tolerate this anymore, and once you let people protect themselves, then you can go in and try to figure out, hey, how could we have done something differently here and how this kid was raised or something, right? But you can't go into all of that before the guy is sentenced and before the victims have their justice. And I think that we're teetering on the edge there of giving the victims giving the perpetrator more rights than the victims, and giving them more satisfaction and more consideration than the victims of these crimes. And I think it's a tragedy, frankly. If I had one of my kids that was involved in one of these crimes, I would not want to be having people sitting there trying to figure out, before they even sentence the guy, okay, what was going on in his head? And, you know, maybe if he could have had this or that, you know, to me, the guy committed a terrible crime. There's no excuse for it.
Joe, I agree with you. I think we need to get back to that.
Yeah, I agree, Kevin. It's, you can't, and the thing is, you know, there's a lot of nice people, and I'm one of them, but at the end of the day, some of these people you're not going to rehabilitate. Hopefully, they make a change in their life, but that's their decision. You can't go in and force them to change or put them in a situation that's going to erase all the things they've done. They got to decide they want to change themselves. And that comes after the punishment, not before. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts. I think people are a little bit too quick to the draw on going to trying to figure out what was in the criminal's mind, and instead of letting the victims breathe and letting us get back to some sanity here on how we deal with crime. Because if there's always a reason why you did something and we can always make an excuse, then we're never going to hold you fully accountable. And that's the problem.
Well, Joe, I think that's the way of the world these days. No one's accountable for anything. No one's responsible for anything.
Yeah, I know. It's unfortunate, but, you know, I train my kids in how to handle guns, in what is right, what is wrong, and how to treat people and those kind of things. I understand some people don't have that benefit growing up, but society needs to hold that standard high as what we need to shoot for, and not dumb it down, so to speak, or let people off the hook for doing things that are terrible. It really bugs me, Kevin, and infuriates me, actually, and I think people need to stand up for that. We have to have a bright light of what the best is and what truth is and what righteousness is. Otherwise, people aren't going to strive for those things. They're going to just do immoral acts.
Joe, appreciate you listening to KIDO Talk Radio. You have a great Monday, sir.
You too, Kevin. See you.
See you. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Liberty Linda joins us now. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Kevin. You know, when John McCain ran for president, that was a really hard one. A person had to pick between John McCain or Obama. And, you know, I personally consider both of them actually having a big D behind their names. You know, then, of course, he chose Sarah Palin for a running mate, and I really like Sarah Palin. I really like Sarah Palin. Then, of course, you know, John McCain's mother one day came on the news and said, "Oh, just hold your nose and vote for him." So that's what I did, Kevin. I held my nose and I voted for John McCain. So, anyway.
Well, I think all of us did. We all went down with the ship.
Well, what else could we do? I mean, you know, our choices wasn't that great. And so we do need to honor him. He did serve our country. He did get wounded. And I believe we need to honor him for that. And, you know, now he's given us life to our country in all ways. So in that respect, I will honor him for that. But let's just hope that the person that goes in, if you know who it is, let me know. Let's hope they have a strong, very strong R behind their names this time. What do you think?
Well, that would be nice. It, I guess, depends on who the governor of Arizona will nominate for that.
Yeah, right. And, you know, of course, we got Brad Little here, which I am still surprised, you know. But anyway, he is a very nice man. And, you know, he sent out this flyer, I think it was him, with his 2 grandchildren with him. I don't know if you saw that one or not.
No, I'm not. I'm not on the little mailing list. I know Tea Party Bob is, but I'm not.
It was so adorable. His 2 little grandchildren sitting there next to him. That would melt anyone's heart. And I thought at that minute, maybe Brad Little will win. And, well, he did. So we don't know what puts people over, you know, over the line so that people will vote for him. So, but anyway, so.
Well, it won't be Paulette, that's for sure.
No, I don't think so. But, so anyway, thanks for all that you do for us, Kevin. We love you. We love listening every morning.
We love you. Thanks for waking up with us today.
Yeah, that's about what I did. Okay, have a great one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, more of your talk concerning safety, security, and guns with me, Kevin Miller, on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. And quickly to Tim and Eagle. Tim, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin.
Well, Tim,
I'm calling about the shooting in Florida, and something that really strikes me. It tends to be, I think, a discipline issue, and what I mean is, I was raised in a time where I'm 53 years old. By the way, I escaped Portland 2 years ago, and when I was a kid growing up, I was disciplined. Whenever I acted out, when I ever acted poorly, when I misbehaved, I was punished.
Tim, great call. Thank you.